Good morning, Bhaswati. Thank you for being back on our show today.
Thank
I'm
you for
glad to
having me.
have you here, and I'm interested in starting the conversation again about Ayurveda. I have an interesting question for you today. Um, like Ayurveda is such a specific field, unlike allopathy, where you do randomized trials and all. But in Ayurveda, every body type, every person's doshas, they differ. And you need to consider everything unique to a person to even advise them a diet that is good for them, not just medicine but even the diet, and how the diet also, the food also has doshas, because I've heard in Ayurveda the nature has doshas, not just your body, so even food has doshas. And how is this this is something very like intriguing to my mind, like how this happens, that diet is being assigned to a specific person on their specific dosha, being aggravated, or body type that they have. So if you could briefly explain these food and diet related to the doshas in Ayurveda.
So, when you talk about things briefly, you don't get to go deep, but let's see how deep we can go. If you look at the world as red, blue, and green, you just get used to looking at it. And anytime you see red, you'll say, red, there, I understand it. If you don't know the colors, then it's hard to understand, right? It's not deciphered. So, in the same way, the elders, the people who knew how the earth was, saw three themes. So they saw Vata, which was the theme of movement, things that move fast and have this embodiment of air and ether, very light, cold, dry, mobile, and rough. So these are the adjectives. Then they saw a theme of warmth and kind of acidic, sharp nature. It was almost like this fiery transformation. So that transformation was called pitta. And that has to do with that heat or that water that transforms things. And they saw things transform by the power of Agni, which is fire, and Ap or Jal, which is water. But then they also noticed a third type, which was very still, very stable, kind of cool, cool guy, cool sitting there, and soft and very inviting, very lubricating, very stable. And that was called Kapha. And that had the compounds that are the heaviest and most still, which were water and earth. And so between the Vata, Pitta, and Kapha, they started noticing that everything fell into those three categories. And they looked for more. Maybe there's four, maybe there's five, maybe there's six. But they kept finding that there were three. And as we go across different cultures, it's interesting that they found in Yang and the Tao in Chinese medicine, they found ectomorph, mesomorph, and endomorph in the Northern European morphologies of the human body. In the homeopathic literature, there's psychosis, Sora, and one more, which I'm forgetting right now. And in every medical system, there seems to be this triad. So in Ayurveda, it's Vata, Pitta, Kapha. So if you look at people and you see what their nature is, you see how their eyes are, you see how their jaw shape is, the length of their neck, the width of their shoulders, the heaviness of their wrists. You can see that mine aren't super skinny, but there is a little bone there. So they're not quite kapha, but they're not also vata. So I have very pitta, very stable, but not too heavy wrists. So I look at people's wrists and their, the different parameters to see how they are. I look at their personalities and I look at how they behave. Like if they have a stress, do they jump or do they get mad or are they kind of cool about it? And that tells me more about their prakriti. So that's their baseline constitution. But that doesn't really matter when you have a disease. So when you have like acid reflux and you're hot all the time and bothered and you have this kind of face on you and you're all angry, you have a pitta disorder. So it doesn't matter if you're a vata, pitta, or kapha or a combination. You need to take care of that pitta disorder. And when you do, and that pitta comes back into balance, then you find that your prakriti comes back. So how do you get back into balance? You look at those adjectives that I just told you a few minutes ago about pitta and you do the opposite. Okay, so if you're having hot, sharp, and acidic disease like the acid reflux, then you should have cool, non-sharp, which is like smooth or soft, and non-acidic, which is sweet. So we say sweet, fresh, and cool foods. And those are, the ones that quell. Now, the specifics about what to get depend on where you live. So there's an entire 10-part factors that you'll learn as you learn Ayurveda that starts with dosha, desha, balam, kalam, and it goes on. It talks about satmiya, which is what you grew up with, and your prakriti, which we just talked about as your constitution, and a whole bunch of factors that tell how to choose that food or how to choose that particular herb. So no food is without medicinal properties for someone. So if people say ice cream is bad for you, well, if it's not really ice cream, it's like corn starch and milk solids and like carrageenan gum and guar gum and like chemicals, then yeah, maybe that's not really food. But if you have cream of ice cream that's been iced, that like 100% pure ice cream, that's actually medicinal for those pitta people who need the sweet, the cool, if it's made fresh. So fresh ice cream from a creamery is actually a prescription that I give to people. I'm like, you're a doctor and you're giving me ice cream. I said, yes, because this is good for your particular situation. Don't overdose, but have a little bit. And so I make it fun for them. And I find foods that they enjoy, so like for a kapha person that's like kind of sitting around and can't seem to get up, I say, I want you to have popcorn because it's light and airy and it's going to bring in some of that vata for you. And so you have to really know the different kinds of foods so you can choose from them. So as you gain more and more repertoire around Ayurvedic nutrition, right? So, I'm teaching that class called Conscious Diet that teaches people plant-based Ayurvedic nutrition and the whole different food groups from an Ayurvedic perspective, not from a carbohydrate, fat, and protein perspective, but rather, which is like just the chemicals, but rather the Vata Pitta Kapha perspective, which takes a food and makes it interface with the human live being. And that's what gives every food the medicinal application that we are talking about.
That's amazing. Like, I never thought like ice cream could be healthy.
Good example.
But it could be for somebody who has a body type. I mean, if it is made fresh.
If it's made fresh. And it can't be all that garbage ice cream, the stuff that if you let ice cream melt and it becomes like this fuzz at the top and water at the bottom, that's not ice cream. That's garbage.
Like even the milk, like back in the days, the milk that people had, from what I know, it was taken out from the cow every day, so it was not stored for long. It was more on a daily use basis, and the way they drank
what I drink every day. That's what I drink. And in fact, people that are convalescing from diseases, one of the best things they can do is go to the foods that are called the Agriya foods, Agrya, Agriya. And there's a list of them that the wise men gave to us and said, of the grains, choose rice. Because for most humans, remember, Bharat was from Afghanistan all the way to Indonesia. It was a whole bunch of different types of people. And all those different types of people had different subtypes of rice, but they found that rice was the most nourishing to the human body. Of the milks, fresh, slow boiled cow milk. Of the nuts, almonds. Of the oils, sesame, and also ghee, but ghee is not a plant oil, it's an animal oil. Of the beans, moong. Of the vegetables, gourds. And of the pumpkins, ash gourd, which is called kushmanda. Of the fruits, grapes. And anar, which is called pomegranate, is the second one. So they went through all the different food groups and they said, here are the best ones. Eat these and you won't go wrong, as long as they're pure. Like if you're eating reconstituted almond paste that's got like genetically modified stuff in it, that's not an almond. That's not what they were talking about. So understanding foods and where they come from, and as you said, getting milk fresh from the cow, that makes a big difference. And unfortunately, in the United States and in Canada, We are so accustomed to processed foods as the norm because we think that it's a way to preserve foods for longer. And people will say, well, I make my food on Sunday and then I eat it through the week so I don't have to cook. So that's not fresh food. And that affects people over time. So what I do is I get them cooking, and I get them to spend 15 to 20 minutes a day cooking. And if you cook for two, it takes almost the same time as cooking for one. So you just have both people cooking, and that way you only, cook 3 or 4 nights a week. And if you can learn to do that, there are thousands of people who are cooks that cook really great meals. Why can't you be one of them? Then you really change your body, your dhatus, your tissues grow because they have these great foods.
That's so true. Like in India, when I was there, I never remember eating the same food every day because it was the trend that every day mom is going to cook fresh food. So no, that is just amazing for sure. Like I became a vegan here in Canada just because, like, I'm not a vegan. I eat desi ghee, but I get it from India, from a
You're a
desi cow.
You're called a Geegan, not a vegan.
Yeah.
Geegan, Geegan. That's what they're called.
Yes, because I get it from India, from a cow that's not hormones given, not injections given, pure, and they make it with love. They treat the cows with love. So yeah, that's one big reason that I am a vegan. It's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing about the diet and about the doshas, how it relates in Ayurveda and how it's so specific. So it's beautiful, and you have the course going on for the diet, and I'll share a link in my description for people who are interested in taking the course on your plant-based Ayurvedic diet. So
Ayurvedic nutrition, yeah, conscious diet, plant-based Ayurvedic nutrition. And we go through all the food groups and how to eat and some basics about Ayurveda. But there's a lot of different ways you can learn. So you just have to find what's right for you.
okay, sure. I will look forward to attending it myself, and I hope that people who come to my channel will be able to benefit from that too.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming into the show. Thanks so much. Thanks.